We know that visions represents a person's ambition, and is given to them when that ambition reaches a certain strength. With that said, I wanted to know the exact moment that each character is blessed by one, and wanted to share it with everyone. So, I compiled their stories, and made a quick summary on how every Mondstadt character from Genshin Impact received their vision. Amber once believed that if she took on her grandpa's post, she would understand why he left Mondstadt. However, when she officially became an outrider, she was no closer to unraveling the mystery behind his departure, and left nothing for her to find either, indicating that she would have to forge her own path. Amber struggled for a while, until she found an old book of fables that showed how the birds learned how to fly. What you lacked was not wind, but courage. It is courage that has allowed you to become the first flying birds of this world. With this, Amber realized that she shouldn't wait for directions from someone else, but instead be like those birds that chose to be courageous and flew into the skies. The moment she realized the revelation, a vision began to shine brightly at her hip. Albedo received his vision in the middle of doing his work, though it wasn't shown what he was specifically doing. He only gave it a single glance before continuing to engross himself in his duties. He barely felt any emotion at all, as if nothing significant even happened. As far as he is concerned, his vision is merely a tool with which he can more conveniently conduct his research. What truly sparks joy within him is turning the unknown into the known. Bennett's passion for adventure is truly unstoppable, but there was once a scenario when he met with a true crisis. Just as the old adventurer had so long ago, Bennett was in a predicament that would cause any other person to despair. He was constantly losing so much blood in his adventure, and it wasn't looking good at all. Most people would retreat and leave, but not Bennett, as he thought that there would be no reason to turn back. When he reaches the end of his very terrible journey, what he found waiting for him was nothing, absolutely nothing at all. At last, his tightly wounded emotions came loose, and caused him to collapse on the ground. When he reawakened, a vision pulsed warmly in the palm of his hand, its rhythm in sync with the heartbeat in his chest, the beating heart of an adventurer. When Barbara first joined the church, she met a little boy that was badly sick. Even after giving him some medicine, his high fever and relentless tears wouldn't go away, and nothing Barbara did worked. Someone suggested that she sing a song to ease the boy's pain, and even though Barbara had never sung in her life up until this point, she gave it a shot anyway. She sung a lullaby from her childhood. Her delicate voice began to soothe the child, and so she kept singing. Finally, the little boy fell asleep peacefully, and being extremely tired herself, Barbara also ended up falling asleep. When she awoken, a hydro vision had mysteriously appeared next to her hand. However, she paid more attention to the fact that the boy's fever had gone down, filling her with joy. Her dream of healing, through the power of song, was now possible with her vision. We aren't shown the exact details of Diluc's vision story, but we do know that he received his pyro vision at the age of just 10 years old. His father had two regrets in life, and one of them was never being able to obtain a vision, and his wishes was passed on to his son. For this reason, the moment Diluc got blessed by his pyro vision, he took it as the god's recognition for not just his ambition, but also his father's. He can now finally fulfill his promise and make his father proud. Diona deeply loves his dad, that's a hunter, but she despises the wine that he loves to drink. There was once a strong storm that lasted 3 days, and during the time, her father, who had been out hunting, hasn't come home yet. Due to the bad weather, the Knights of Favonius couldn't conduct a proper search around the area, and Diona started to think of the worst outcomes possible. She couldn't stand the idea of losing her father, so she looked for him herself. She bursts out of the door, and into the windy storm of the forest, using her exceptional tracking skills to find him. Her path gets blocked by a river, but at that moment, the water suddenly gets frozen by some type of power, and only then she realized that she was blessed with a cryovision. She eventually finds and saves his father, and when she was sure he's fine, Diona finally smiles again. Still, not even the power of cryo could make her stop hating wine. Eula had never experienced the humiliation of her clan that they constantly complained about, and doesn't understand their strong desire to reclaim Noloran's name. All of the suffering and torment she had endured in her life had been at their own hands. So she attempted to free herself from their shackles, but struggled to gain the empathy and approval of the other citizens. Her talk of vengeance was but a habit, a signal, a shield. She needed to learn how to relate with others. She was stumped. Fortunately, she came under the tutelage of an old outrider. That tutor was also Amber's grandfather. From his teachings, she found herself, her determination, her grievances and vengeance. Eula found herself on a gentle path of revenge that was hers alone, and at that moment, her cryovision appeared before her. Fischl had always deeply loved fantasy novels, and would get lost in the idea of different universes in every book. Her obsession for fantasy novels made her unable to fit in with her peers, but her parents' words always gave her comfort and confidence. On her 14th birthday, Fischl was once again ridiculed by others, who wouldn't accept her quirks, but just ignored them, as she knew her parents would be at her side. However, instead of words of comfort, her parents simply asked her to grow up and put her childish dreams behind. The same voice that once lit up their world now tore it apart. That day at midnight, she hid away in the library and cried. Suddenly, she felt someone near, and heard wings flapping, looking to see a raven from another world, and an electrovision appear in front of her. When Jean had been promoted to Master of Knights, she was instantly given a huge burden that stood in front of her. The Fatu we were exerting diplomatic pressure, and from within, there were traitors and allies from the former inspectors that were still in the Abyss Order. This were no easy tasks, but Jean was determined. With one hand, she fought off the Fatui, and with the other, she managed to lead the Knights to smash the plots of the Abyss Order, re-establishing the Order's authority. Jean will never forget the moment she received her vision. The entire world felt silent, and she could feel a soft breeze in her hand. She remembered her clan's motto. For Mondstadt, as always. Kaeya was Diluc's brother by adoption, and was always together, but on the occasion of their father's death, he chose not to participate. The truth is, he is originally not from Mondstadt, but from somewhere else, and he's conflicted on which side he'll be on, in a scenario of war. On that fateful day, out of guilt, he told Diluc about all his hidden secrets, and finally coming clean. The brothers drew blades, anticipating a fight, and for the first time, he was facing Diluc as his true self. He felt a sensation of great elemental power flowing through him, and when their swords clash, bitterly cold elemental energy bursts from his sword. This was the grim moment at which Kaeya was blessed by a cryovision, although he never discusses the story of his vision's origins. Klee was doing his very first solo project, but the results were what you would expect would happen when you leave a pyromaniac child alone. She had been creating a bomb that was even bigger than super big, and then it suddenly explodes. She only blew up their small workshop, with the only thing remaining being smoke and ash. When the smoke cleared, she was pleasantly surprised to see a pyrovision among the ashes, and this was the moment her ambition was realized by the gods. I have a lot of questions for whoever gifted this small, young, destructive child a vision. Lisa, who was still at the Sumeru Academia at the time, realized that a vision would be necessary in unearthing the contents and secrets of magecraft. After all, comprehending the different elements is essential to the study of magic. It would be more helpful if you can understand the elements using practical experience like a vision than trying to gain the knowledge through reading them from old books. I suppose I need a vision, she suddenly thought. And just like that, an electrovision also suddenly appeared in her hand. Mona first received an empty, or dead vision from her master, as a teaching aid, and as a memorabilia of their time spent together, as teacher and student. She eventually managed to reawaken the empty vision, with her ambition, and it turned into her hydrovision. Because of her belief that even gods are forced to follow the world's rules, a vision being mainly used for power is nothing to her. Rather finding out the truth than fighting, combat skill isn't high on her priorities at all. It also keeps making her wet. although she still finds some uses for the vision. Noelle, after failing the knight's selection for the 7th time, felt exhausted, thinking that all her training to be a knight had been for nothing, and feared that all her hard work wouldn't be recognized by anyone. That moment, the gate flung open, and out came Master Jean, and Noelle saluted to her, without thinking. Unexpectedly, Jean returned the salute, making Noelle smile. She would never forget that special day, as it showed that two important people appreciated her hard work. Master Jean, for saluting back, and the gods, for blessing her with a geovision. Her exhaustion had now disappeared, and she took the vision as a sign to never give up on her dreams. For Razor, one day during a storm, he was suddenly ambushed by an abyss mage that dragged him away from his pact. His wolf friends tried to help him, but the mage was proven to be too strong, and defeats every single one, Razor staring helplessly at his injured companions. Greatly wanting to avenge them, he lets out an almighty roar, his body now suddenly emitting elemental energy. Fueled by rage and fury, he easily defeats the abyss mage, but it was too late to save his wolven companions. Only then he realized that he had received an electro vision. Though he now had a vision, he struggled to use the electro element with finesse. But thanks to his teacher, Lisa, he can now easily utilize it, and be able to protect others, when his friends faces another threat. Rosaria, driven by hunger, fled from the gang of bandits that stole her as a child, not wanting to deal with them anymore. One of the elders of the gang pulled up to her and called her a traitor for leaving. He was the very person that took her away from her village, and was also the one to teach her how to fight. He gave her a dagger and challenges her to a duel. If Rosaria defeats him, she will now be allowed to flee and leave the bandits. During their fight, Rosaria had been blessed by a cryovision, and eventually comes out victorious in their match. As the bandits cheer for their new leader, all she could think about is if her father sacrificed himself on purpose so that she could replace him. Could his false father have genuinely loved her? Sucrose was doing her 159th dandelion seed simmering experiment when she poured her carefully made alchemical solution onto the cauldron that contained the seeds. It immediately started to smoke, and her lab is quickly filled with steam. When she anxiously looks inside the cauldron, she was disappointed to find that the seeds were all just burnt to a crisp. However, amidst the burnt seeds, there was a glowing anima vision that was for her. Instead of taking it out, she decided to experiment with the vision first, and lit the fire up again, wanting to see what further reactions might occur between the dandelion seeds and the vision. Unfortunately, nothing happened after 3 hours of simmering, and she finally took the jewel out. Still, she had been blessed by a vision, and the energy provided would become her single greatest asset in her future research and experiments. Finally, for Venti, the vision he's wearing is actually just fake, and he doesn't have a vision at all, not needing one. Being Mondstadt's Archon, he's able to manipulate the anemo element, even without that precious item. That is all of the Mondstadt characters' vision stories compiled. I'll do another part for the leeway characters, but keep in mind, it might take a while. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribe, and like, if you ended up enjoying this video, as I put a lot of effort into it. Bye.